Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I know it's been an eternity since I posted a video. I am very sorry about that. If I'm going to be 100% honest with you, there's just not been much to talk about. Or the stuff that there has been to talk about, I just always second guess myself and think, do they really want to hear me talk about that? For instance, I did tell a friend of mine that I was going to get around to posting a retraction video about my views on Tears of the Kingdom, because the truth is I did like it. I still have issues with it. I still think it would have been a far better game if they didn't completely reuse the entire original landscape of Breath of the Wild. If we had a brand new landscape in a different part of Hyrule or something. But I liked it. I think that the sky and the depths kind of made up for the fact that we were reusing that exact same landscape. But I don't think there's a whole video in that, so I'm just going to say that here and now and then move on. And then what I'd like to talk about next is that there has been no movement really about my writing, except there was one very exciting moment that turned out to be nothing. Although it is something to kind of feel motivated about for the future and feel accomplished. But anyways, so the publishing industry is extremely complicated. First of all, usually people think, oh, you write a book, you send it to a publisher, it gets published because it's a complete book. Why wouldn't it be? So first of all, no. Any publisher who receives that manuscript is going to say, well, who the hell is so-and-so? Into the garbage it goes. If they don't know you, why would they look at it? They're not going to waste their time. They probably would get thousands a day if that were the case, because thousands of people write books. 99% of them are terrible, but plenty of people write books. And so what you have to do first is acquire a literary agent. Now, a literary agent is very selective. They're not going to want to represent garbage. They also receive hundreds of books a day, and they frankly don't read through all of those. Basically, something's got to catch their eye. You pitch the book to them. You say what the most exciting thing about it is. And first of all, some literary agents only represent certain types of books. So there are categories. There's adult, there's fantasy and sci-fi, there's middle grade, which is like children's basically. There's young adult, which is that area between adult and, well, really it's between middle grade and new adult, but new adult isn't really a thing. So anyways, the point is there are all these different categories, and some agents only represent, like, let's say middle grade contemporary fantasy. Some agents will only represent middle grade fantasy, which is different than contemporary fantasy. Some agents only represent, you know what I'm trying to say here? So you have to only query agents who want your specific type of thing. And sometimes it gets even more specific than that. Sometimes some agents only want like young adult supernatural romance or something like that. Or specifically young adult vampire romance, you know? Maybe not even, they don't even want to deal with ghosts or whatever, ghost romance. They only want vampire romance, or only, you know, Chinese mythological, you know what I'm trying to say here? It can get very specific. So you as the writer have to, frankly, writing the book is the easiest part of this whole process. The hardest part is finding the agent who's appropriate for you, and then you query them. You send them like, here's the type of book it is. It's a middle grade whatever, or a young adult whatever. It's these many words, because books have to be a specific number of words to be correctly written. And then anyways, so that was a whole journey, and if you've watched any of my previous videos, you know it took me forever to find an agent, and then I finally did. It took me like 2 years and like 6 manuscripts to finally find an agent who wanted to represent one of my manuscripts. So, I won't go into the whole... We're going to skip a huge chunk of the story here because I've told a billion times, and we're going to skip straight to what happened recently, which is that one of those manuscripts, the second one that we've been sending out, was taking a long time to get a response back from this one particular editor, and that's actually a good sign. If you get a quick response back of a no thank you, that means they briefly glanced at it and they said no thanks. If it takes them a while, that means they're actually reading it and engaging with it because they're intrigued by it, probably, or maybe they're just super busy. But anyways, in this case it turned out that they weren't interested, and she did want to buy my book. But she doesn't get to make that decision, it turns out. And this is part of the process that I kind of knew, but forgot. So anyways, what the editor has to do at that point is she doesn't have the power to just buy it. She has to then pitch it in the exact same way that my agent pitched it to her. She now, the editor, has to pitch it to her colleagues. So they have a weekly meeting where they say, hey, I really want to buy this book. Anybody want to do second reads? And then one of the other editors will say, ooh, that does sound intriguing. I will read it. And the point of that is the second editor will read it and then give the thumbs up and say, you weren't crazy. This isn't a terrible book. By all means, please go ahead and buy it. And then they pitch it again at the next meeting, and then the financial team gets involved, and then numbers are run to determine what they're going to offer the writer. Basically what they're trying to do at that point is figure out, well, this book is very similar to book X and book Y. And book X sold X number of copies. Book X sold Z number of copies. Book Y sold B number of copies. So we think this book, because it's similar to these, will sell such and such number of copies, which means we will then be able to offer such and such advance to the writer. And the idea is hopefully the advance covers exactly how much money the book will make. Strangely, they don't want to under offer you. They want to give you as much as possible, but not too much. Anyways, it didn't get that far. She pitched it, this editor pitched it, and nobody at second reads wanted to take it on. So that was a bummer. But it almost happened. I really do think that if one of those other editors read it and took it on, they'd be like, yes, you're not crazy, by all means, go ahead. She said that, oh, whoops, this was not manuscript 2, this was manuscript 1, because the feedback was the theme park setting was a tough pitch. Now that's crazy to me because every other editor who passed on it said, I loved the theme park setting. That was one of my favorite parts. And then to hear that in this instance, somebody who almost bought it said that her colleagues were finding it a tough pitch. I don't know. Anyways, very disappointing on one hand that it got so close, but on the other hand, it got so close. So that means that surely it's gonna happen, right? That's how I'm looking at it. If one of the big 5, we're not, by the way, submitting it to any indie publishers just yet. We're shooting for the stars. So we've been aiming for the big 5 publishers, various imprints within the big 5. So those are publishers like Random House and Simon & Schuster and Penguin and, you know, Macmillan and these types of places. If eventually we get to the point where none of the big 5 want any of the manuscripts, then we might start aiming slightly lower. But anyway, one of the big 5, one of the editors at one of the big 5 wanted it. But anyways, so all that to be saying, I'm not optimistic still. What we are doing though is moving focus to a 3rd manuscript, so I'm tidying up some edits on that, which I think is much more commercially viable and won't be as hard of a pitch, I think. So fingers crossed for that. But anyways, that will probably go out on submission in the next month or 2. So fingers crossed that that's the one that finally, that bait finally gets bitten. I don't know. Anyways, that's it for this video. See you guys for the next one. Bye, guys.